like when you're 18 years old, 20 years old, 22 years old, you don't have the ego enough to say, I'm not going to do this for free. I'm not going to, follow you around and, go on ride-alongs with you for 2 weeks for free. I want to get paid for that. It's like, that's the exact opposite mindset of what you should have. I would, like if I was 18 years old and Grant Cardone or somebody told me to work for them for free for a month, dude, I would do it.
What is up, everybody? This is episode 99 with the great Garrett Terrel. I started following him on Instagram a little while back. He seemed like a really cool, interesting guy. He's my age. I'm also 28, so I always love seeing people who are absolutely crushing it, who are a little bit on the younger side. Sent him a DM on IG. He said he would come on the podcast, and we now have you here. I'm incredibly grateful for you being here. And I'm excited for this podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Love it. So real quick, just for my audience that doesn't know you, like just give a little quick bio on you. Just like, what's your business? What have you done in real estate? All that good stuff. Just real quick, like what businesses do you run? All that good jazz.
Yep. So former Division I baseball player in college, moved to Arizona about 8 months ago, lived in Seattle last 5 years, and did a bunch of fix and flips and selling real estate. That was kind of the two income sources there. And then now over the last few years, kind of transitioned more into the investor role and, building a rental property portfolio right now and loving it and don't want to do anything else. So that's pretty much it.
Love it. Awesome. So mainly your entire business has just been long-term rentals, just owning a bunch of those?
Yeah, that's pretty much it as of right now. I really was a lot of labor intensive over the years with selling real estate, flipping real estate, and, kind of focusing on those two things. But, buying assets and buying cash flow. And that's kind of been the focus the past 12 to 16 months. And and it's been amazing.
I love it so much. So real quick, this is my classic first question that I'm going to ask you. I told you it before the podcast, which is, when you were just starting out in real estate, what were the fears that you were dealing with? We all deal with fears, imposter syndrome, fear that we can't do it, fear that something's going to go wrong as we're doing business, maybe even fear that we're going to be sued. But what were like the fears that you dealt with right when you were starting out before you ever did your first real estate deal? And what did you do to be able to overcome those fears?
Yeah, great question. So I think fear comes from confusion. It comes from not knowing what to say, not knowing how the process works, not knowing how to buy a flip and then refi it afterwards. I think the fear comes from not knowing the correct answer. So when I was brand new into the business, my biggest fear was basically building rapport with middle-aged people, 50, 60-year-olds when I was 22 years old. That was the biggest fear for me starting out. That fear kind of changed into the future. I had different fears as I, bought a larger flip. That's $100,000 remodel. That's a new fear. Buying $1 million deal now, that's a different fear. So your fears will change in time, I believe, but a great way to overcome your fears is really, like, if you're an expert, you're not going to be scared of a lot of things. You know what I mean? If you know internally what you're saying is the correct information, I think that fear just kind of goes away. So I think it's a lot of confusion is wrapped up in the fear, and overcoming that is just becoming an expert, putting in the work.
So talk about that a little bit. What do you mean by confusion? Like, what are you confused about, right? Are you confused about what to do, or what do you mean by that exactly?
So, like, brand new real estate agents into the business, for example, like my first 4 years, really 3 years in business was mainly being a real estate agent and flipping homes, essentially. So I think the fear of, when I was brand new, going to a $750,000 house on a listing appointment, that's a big moment, especially when they're interviewing 5 or 6 agents. I'm the youngest one. Even though I have a good track record and everything, I'm still the youngest one, and that's still an objection that I'm gonna have to overcome no matter what. I think just becoming the expert, becoming the local expert.
Real quick, how young were you when you started out?
22.
Gotcha. Love it.
Yep.
Sorry, keep going. I just want to know exactly how young you were.
Yep. I still look somewhat young. I got a little bit of facial hair, but man, I was baby looking when I was 22. So I had to become an expert. I had to know my stuff, or else I was just going to be looked over, So I think the biggest thing is overcoming your fears by becoming the expert. Actually knowing what you're talking about is a huge thing in this business. And as you know, there's a lot of people in this real estate business that have zero clue what they're talking about. They're full of crap, And so when you find somebody that's actually not full of crap, that knows what they're talking about, that's an expert, I think all that fear and anxiety just goes away, and you just have confidence and you build rapport, and you're just happy to be there. It's a totally different mindset shift. So yeah, that's what I think.
So for you, when you were dealing with it, at the very beginning, you felt like the greatest fear you had, or you just felt super confused, and because of that, your fear was kind of just maybe not 100% knowing if you were doing the right thing, or if you
Right.
maybe a one that you mentioned that's a really interesting one that I want to delve into is the fear of being too young, right? And sorry, I got to do this. My camera's flipping out if it's going to listen to me. It's like one of those cameras that moves around. Usually it stops. I don't know why it's deciding not to register today. Whatever. I'm going to be going in and out for this podcast. But I really find that one interesting too, because I started when I was 25. So I was young, but I feel like 25 is young and old enough where it's possible. But how did you overcome the fact that you're 22, right? I mean, I have friends who are doing this who are 17, 18, 19, 20, and they deal with this as well. How did you overcome those objections? How did you deal with the fact that you were an insanely young individual to be doing real estate? A, how did you overcome it for yourself? And B, how did you overcome that objection when people found out you were 22?
It's a fantastic question. So again, I think overcoming your fear, starting out in the business is you got to become the expert. You got to become the local expert, especially if you're being a real estate agent. My business now and life looks a little bit different now because I'm not really selling a whole lot of real estate. I'm mainly just focusing on investing over the last few years, and I love it. I would prefer it to be that way. But when you're starting out, my biggest fear was going to a listing appointment and just looking like an idiot, not knowing what to say, not knowing, the proper comps for their house, just the whole listing process in itself. It's a process. You have to build rapport with middle-aged people. You gotta, you're dealing with crazy life situations, divorce, death, tons of stuff. And it's a big deal. It's the most stressful transaction in some of these people's lives. And not many people are going to trust a 22-year-old, to do it. The way I got sellers to trust me so much is I physically showed them the value that I could bring them when listing and selling their house. And that's from knowing every house in the neighborhood, knowing all the investors, knowing how to save money on home inspections, on photos, different angles, stuff like that. So visibly showing people value, giving people value first before asking anything in return. And sometimes, when I got done with these listing appointments, the sellers were like, where do I sign? Let's do this thing. And so when you get to that point, that's becoming the expert. That's becoming the local market expert. And then at that point, all of your fears will just go away. But brand new into the business, when I didn't know anything, man, I was scared. I didn't know what to say, So that's what I would say. Become the local expert. Become the expert in what you're afraid of currently, essentially.
Gotcha. So just to double check, did anyone let's say there's a young realtor listening in right now, or even a young real estate investor, and they're like, hey, are you 22? How old are you? Do you know what you're doing? What would be your response to that? Did you ever even get that? Was that a real thing, or did you just worry about that?
I did get that actually quite a bit. First 2 years, it was, that's kind of the transitionary period, I would say, is it takes 2 years in the real estate business, if you're an agent, to kind of get over that hump of, if you've done transactions, getting over the hump of, hey, first year in the business, let me sell your house. Most people don't like that. So there is, there is a lot, I would say, when you're a brand new agent, leveraging a team, stuff like that. But really at the start, you have to be honest. You have to be dead honest with people, and I would tell these sellers, I was like, look, this is my first year in the business. I am working directly with a team leader who sells over 200 houses a year. Here's our whole entire system and process. Here's the whole shebang, basically. What are your questions? And so I would leverage the team a little bit starting out. And that was super helpful until I got over that hump. So, to parallel it into real estate investing, I would find a mentor, leverage your mentor. If you're going to somebody's house and you're a cash buyer and they go, well, how many houses do you own? How many have you purchased? How many have you flipped? And you're like, nothing, none. This is my first one.
Right.
They're probably not going to sell you their house. But if you have a mentor with you and you're like, this guy's closed 500 houses and I'm his mentee and I know exactly his business, his whole process, is everything. And I'm bringing him on the appointment with me. Is there any questions we can ask you or answer for you? And so I would say it's like, you kind of have to leverage your mentors when you're starting out. That's a huge piece of this that not too many people talk about. You got to leverage your mentors.
Gotcha. How does one get a mentor? Let's say I'm just watching this and I don't have any mentors. I'm just going through the free route. How would someone, let's say like somebody really connects with Garrett right now on this podcast. It's like, man, I live in Phoenix. He seems like such a cool guy. I want to be his mentee. What do you feel like someone would have to do, or what they would have to come up with in order to become a mentee of yours or anybody in general?
I appreciate the compliment, man. Thank you. But I would say, if you're a mentee, they used to tell us brand new to the business, you can either pay like to get buyers and sellers, right? Because that's the real estate business, is prospecting. To get buyers or sellers, you either have to either work for it or pay for it, essentially. So if you're brand new into the business, you ain't got no money, your labor is your bargaining tool. And that was my bargaining tool. So like, when you're 18 years old, 20 years old, 22 years old, you don't have the ego enough to say, I'm not going to do this for free. I'm not going to, follow you around and, go on ride-alongs with you for 2 weeks for free. I want to get paid for that. It's like, that's the exact opposite mindset of what you should have. I would, like if I was 18 years old and Grant Cardone or somebody told me to work for them for free for a month, dude, I would do it. Why would you not want to do it? So when you're brand new, your labor is a bargaining tool. Your labor is valuable. So, if you can provide value to people, then you're going to be in those conversations. You're going to be in the right rooms. You're going to be on those phone calls if you can provide value. If you're just like, hey, I'm trying to build my buyers list, what do you, that's not very valuable. But if you have a deal that you're trying to sell somebody that only you have, and you have this secret way of, finding these sellers and building really good rapport with it, like that is valuable, So I guess find something that you can show value to with a mentor, and 99% of the time they're going to accept that, even if it's free or even if it's partial work. Use your labor to your advantage. Use your hustle. Because when you're starting out, that's all you got. You got no money starting out. You got no other choice. So
100%. 100%. I'm just going to echo what you're already saying real quick. If you're looking for a mentor, like if you're like, I've had some mentees before. I bet Garrett has too. The difference is exactly what Garrett said. It's when you guys add value for free. When you think creatively, like, what could this person need? I'm just going to tell a real quick story. 2 days ago, I was speaking at ASU. I would have done this live. I didn't know you were in Arizona. I should have checked that out because we could have done this live. But I was at ASU 2 days ago, and a college student came up to me. There's several college students who came up to me and wanted to work for me and like, oh, are you hiring right now? And I'm like, nah, man, not really, right? Because they don't have any skills. I definitely don't want to hire any of them. Yeah. But there was one kid who came up to me like, hey, man, like I've been editing. I saw your Instagram and TikTok. You have an insane amount of content. Like, do you need like an extra editor? I could do some editing for you on the side. And I'm like, yeah, actually I could, especially if it's free, right? Like I didn't say that out loud, but like I'm like thinking that if I had a free editor, yeah, I'll teach that guy all the real estate investing ever, because he sent me back a reel. I'm like, damn, you did a pretty darn good job. Like I'm very
Yeah.
impressed by his style, right? And so that kid, I'm having a conversation with him tomorrow to see how he can add more value to me. And then eventually, I'm obviously going to give it back to him, right? I'm going to teach him real estate investing. He'll have my ear more than anybody else because he's giving me something that's super valuable. So, guys, I really wanted to just come up with an example of something that you guys all can do, or just an example. It's not like everyone can edit, but like an example of like paying attention to what potentially the person you're trying to get to mentor you needs or wants. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. I'm curious, Garrett, like, how do you figure out what would be valuable to a mentor? Because like a lot of kids out there just don't know even what would be valuable to me or you, right?
Yeah.
Deals are obviously one, but I'm curious if there's maybe an example of somehow somebody creatively gave you some value and then there was a relationship started. I don't know if there's like an
Yeah.
example you had that could be helpful for the audience to give them some ideas.
Yeah, that's a great question. Really what I would say is when you're in the business of real estate, you realize, sooner or later that you do not get paid for clocking in. You get paid for results. So, if you're a mentee looking for a mentor and you're trying to provide value and you're trying to figure out what can I give this guy that he would like, that he would allow me to either work with him or ride along with him or learn from him or getting on phone calls or stuff like that. What can I do to provide that to him? Well, obviously, people aren't working for free. Revenue, top line revenue, you can never go wrong with. So obviously a deal is super valuable. Locking up a deal, having that equity in that deal, that equitable contract, that's value, right? That's a form of value that you could give to people. But really the main thing is understand switching from the W2 mindset to the entrepreneur mindset of knowing that you're not getting paid for clocking in. These people are not getting paid for locking in or clocking in. They're getting paid on results. So if you can move that line along with them to get them closer to that top line revenue, or, even if somebody out there like messaged me right now on Instagram and said, dude, I can turn 3 reels into 100,000 views for $50 or $100. Can you do it? I guarantee it. If it doesn't happen, then I'll refund you the money. Dude, I would say yes, 7 days a week to that. 7 days a week. So it's like, just provide value with that top line revenue. That's what we're looking for. That's what I'm looking for. That's what you're looking for. You're looking to add to that top line. So if you have a skill, if you have a good skill, how can you add that skill to that person's life to create more top line revenue? That's what I would say.
Love it. Awesome. So how did you get your mentors? I mean, what was the example of how you got your mentors? You said you had some mentors, you said you had a team. Was it just signing up because you were an agent? They always take more agents, or I'm just curious. Like it sounded like you had some mentors. How did you get your mentors?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So my mom's been in the real estate business for a long time. She got her broker's license in 2016, I believe. And so my first mentor was Joe Simonette. Shout out to Joe, my boy, super awesome guy. And he was a team lead for the team. And, my mom did well and produced. And she said, hey, my son's in college playing Division I baseball right now. And when he gets done, I want him to get licensed. I want him to meet you and get on the team and everything. So that was kind of the connection or the link, you could say. And then really from there, I seeked, or I don't even know the word for that. I sought out knowledge. Like I was asking people hundreds of questions. I was asking a collection of people a lot of questions. I just wanted to gather info, because when you're in a real estate office with 50 different agents, you're going to get 50 different ways to skin a cat, So I was just looking for knowledge. I was looking for, strategies and stuff like that. And how I found my mentors really, I mean, obviously the connection with my mom, but I proved to him that I was ready for these opportunities by showing him that, I was coming to the office at 7 a.m., staying until 5 p.m., making calls all day, putting in the work, and just showing him that I was ready for these opportunities. And, because the reality is, dude, is people do not want to work. People do not want to get on the phone. People do not want to send emails and texts. And so when you find that person that actually puts in that effort and is like, dude, I'm going to figure this out no matter what, that's how you find a mentor. You have to be so like selfless and basically just asking for an opportunity. And when you are in that type of mindset and around those types of people, those opportunities will pop up and those mentors will have those opportunities. So that's what I would say is really grow your network to find good mentors, and don't search too hard for it either. It's gonna pop up in your life like it did with me, and like it did with many other people, I'm sure with your mentors as well. Don't force it. If you're looking at a mentor, you don't agree with there are certain lifestyles or whatever, don't try to force things. You can learn a lot from the internet, but you really need somebody in person, kind of holding your hand and helping you for the first 6 months, 12 months in the business. So that's what I was saying.
100%. And yeah, guys, like I just want to like emphasize again, just like Garrett is right now, like a mentor is someone you need to bring value to if you want to do it freeway. You can also pay for mentors. That's a way to do it. But we're talking to the people who don't have any money, right? So yeah, these are I just love the tips. I want to talk about your Division One baseball a little bit. What lessons do you feel like you took from sports that translated over to real estate? I've noticed that a lot of times when somebody does either sports or the military or something, like there's a lot of lessons that translate. So I always really like asking, like, what did you learn from baseball that now translates over to real estate?
Yeah, another fantastic question, dude.
I got a lot of them. I try to have a lot of fantastic questions.
The lesson that I learned, honestly, was discipline. Discipline it's kind of the name of the game when you get to that level, because you're the best player in your town or whatever. But when you get to that level, the very top level of Division One baseball, you're all the best players. And so you got to figure out how to get from here to get just a little bit better every single day. So discipline, I feel like I have a really unfair advantage against people in the business, because I literally, it's almost like military to some extent. 6 a.m. workouts, class all day, practice after, homework at night, rinse and repeat for 4 years. You build discipline and you grow up, and if you're a guy, you become a man in college. At least for me, I came in there as a kid, left as a man. And so, really that's what it is. It's discipline. And discipline, I would rather have discipline than motivation. I've heard that from multiple different people. I think David Goggins actually said that. But discipline 1000% is better than motivation. Motivation will come and go, but discipline's there every single day. So that's the lesson.
Let's go into some of the stuff that you were talking about. Like, can you define discipline real quick? Because like I think people get it confused, the confusion of motivation versus discipline. What's the difference between those two? And like what does it mean that discipline is what you really need and not motivation?
Yeah, motivation is like very flaky, very surface level. Watch a YouTube video, get motivated, or you're trying to prove something to somebody, or somebody said a bad comment to you and you're trying to prove them wrong and do well and all this stuff. Discipline is just that daily bread and butter. It's doing the stuff that you need to do even though you don't want to do it. Like when I was brand new into the business, I would my goals as a real estate agent. Again, a lot of people on here are probably investors. I don't recommend being an agent, by the way. If I had to do it all over again, I would have not become a real estate agent. So we could probably go into that later on. But when you're basically, I don't know exactly how to explain this, but your discipline is it's your backbone. It's when you have to make 10 calls, or not 10 calls, 10 contacts. When you have to make 10 contacts and you wake up on a Monday morning at 7:30 or 8:30, discipline is making those calls anyways. Motivation is, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to drink a coffee. I'm going to get in a better mood. I'll do it later on. I'll do it when I'm motivated. Discipline is just doing it no matter what. Like no matter how you're feeling, getting in a cold tub, going to work out, that is discipline. It's the daily grind. And some people like it, some people don't. And the people who are disciplined, I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of amazing baseball players that I've played with, that have played in the major leagues and in the minor leagues, and large real estate investors, very well-to-do people. They all have that same thing in common, which is extreme discipline. So I would say that's a big aspect of this.
Let's go more into it, because this is a conversation I was having with my friend this morning. We ran like a 5-mile run at 5:15, which he does every day, and I never do. I never run that much. And we were talking about the idea of discipline, and me and him were talking about the idea of like making it where there just is no other option. As soon as you add another option in there, that's when you're screwed. It's like when you let your mind be like, no, I can slow down. No, I can like just not do it. That's where you get screwed. Me and him were talking about if when you start doing something, you make it no other option. For instance, for me, I missed 1 week because it was like in the holidays of doing this podcast since I started it. And I've just done it every single week otherwise, because I haven't let myself have the option of missing any other week except for that 1 week, because there was a lot going on. There's the family stuff and the holidays at the same time. But other than that 1 week, I haven't missed a single one, because I just know this will help my journey. I'm curious your opinions on that. Do you agree that that's kind of what creates discipline, is just being like making it in your mind how there's no other option? Or is it something else, or are there any other tricks that you know to stay disciplined?
It's a great question. As soon as you said that, I thought of a quote, or not a quote, but a saying is, what are your non-negotiables? So it's like, 10 calls today, is that negotiable? Can I do that today, or is that a non-negotiable? Am I going to do that no matter what? I would say like email marketing, making a picture and posting it, stuff like that. That's kind of a negotiable, but top line revenue, making phone calls, making your contacts, stuff like that, that's a non-negotiable. You got to do that. Right. So it's like, really, what are your non-negotiables and what are your negotiables, and you got to be honest with yourself. And my non-negotiables when I was brand new into the business was 10 quality conversations about real estate with new prospects every single day, 5 days a week. And I would do 2 open houses on the weekend, and I would get my contacts in and stuff like that. But I was having a enormous amount of conversations about real estate and with buyers and sellers. In my first year as a real estate agent, sold 35 homes and made like $120,000 in real estate commissions. And that was from doing the 10 contacts daily, right? That's from the discipline side of things. So, I mean, really, that's the simple answer to that.
Love it. Awesome. So let's get into what you were talking about earlier about real estate license and why you decided to become a realtor. Why would you change that now, knowing everything you know? Why would you? Sounds like you probably just skip to the investing side.
Yeah.
Why? Like a lot of people think, hey, you need a license to do this business. Why do you not need a license? And why would you recommend other people not to necessarily get their real estate license?
I was so green into the business that I thought exactly that. You have to have a license in order to do this, right? And like, you don't, as an investor, you don't, and I always thought the people that had the licenses, the agents or the investors that had the licenses, like they were like a step above. They had more knowledge because they had this license type thing. And that's the exact opposite, by the way. 90%, NAR just came out with a study, 90% of real estate agents sell less than 3 houses a year. 10% of the people do the rest of the business. So that's a giant fact. And, that's the reality of the situation. I didn't want to, I knew I eventually wanted to get into investing. I just didn't know how to at the start. But, personally, this is just my opinion again. If I'm 40 or 50 years old or 60 years old, I do not want to be out showing buyers houses. I'm sorry. All of my past clients, like if anybody's watching this, I love you guys and you've been amazing. But just for me personally, with me and my family and everything, I do not want to be showing 10 houses on a Saturday. I'm sorry. Somebody else is going to get that business in the future. I would rather be underwriting deals. I would rather be walking deals, locking deals up, building relationships with private lenders, private investors. That's kind of the transitionary phase that I'm in right now. It's just different wants and needs. But literally, if I had to start all over again, I would not get my license. Not one bit.
My man, I appreciate you so much for coming on. Where can people reach out to you? Is there anything you want to promote right now? What are your socials? All that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me on. You can find me on any social, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at Garrett_Terrel. And really right now, you guys, like, it's a crazy point of life that we're at right now. Like, all of our bills and everything is paid for every month. So it's a new period for us, but it's amazing, and we're very thankful for it. But really right now, I'm looking to build relationships with other investors and private money lenders. I even made a Facebook post last week about a pad split deal. And, I just asked for, hey, I have a deal and who wants to lend money, essentially. And I had like 30 something comments on it, and legit got 8 private money lenders who have actually told me that they are going to pledge money for said deal. So, 8 private money lenders off of one Facebook post. I was like, man, something's kind of here. People that are rich don't want to do the labor for this stuff. So they're fine with paying money. They're fine with paying 40 grand, 80 grand into a LP position. And this is obviously very high level stuff. You're not going to do this brand new into the business. But after a while, like the point that we're at right now, I'm looking to talk to private money lenders and other investors and wholesalers. Obviously, love you guys. I've bought so many deals from wholesalers, and some of the best deals that I've bought have been from wholesalers. As much as that kills me to say, they've been some of the deepest discounted deals that I've ever purchased was from wholesalers. Some of my best flips have been from wholesalers as well. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Love it. Awesome. I just want to really quick talk on this. Ethan said, can you teach me real estate? I want to do my first deal. Do you have any coaching program? What should Ethan, it sounds like you need to get him some private money if you want him to teach him something, right? Find some rich people that you know to get into his projects, and then he will teach you real estate. I feel like that would be a good answer for you to that question.
Ethan is a great friend of mine, and I can tell you this, he's saying that as a joke. He has done more deals than I have. Let's just put it that way. We just joke about that because people always say that they want to do their first deal, but they don't know how to. And I hope so. Whatever, dude. You've done over 200 transactions, and I think you own over 100 rentals. But so I don't have any coaching programs, to be honest with you. I do not want to spend my time doing that. I hate to say that, but that's just the God honest truth. If somebody's willing to pay me to, be on a phone call or something and give them information, I will do that. But I'm not going to spend my time doing that. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
No,
if people,
plenty of gurus out there, my man. Don't worry about it.
Plenty.
There are plenty of gurus out there.
Message people. Message all.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So maybe in the future, but not now, my man. I'm enjoying investing and buying these multifamily deals, and that's my focus right now.
All right. I love it, my man. Do you have any last words before I wrap this up?
No, that is it. I think we went through a lot of stuff. Probably could have went another hour, but we went through a lot of good stuff. Somebody's going to get some value out of that. If you just take action from today's podcast and just take action, you're going to be that much farther ahead than the other guy that's watching this that's not going to do anything tomorrow morning. So that's the reality.
I love it. Guys, thank you guys so much for coming on. Next week, I forgot who we have, but obviously it's Thanksgiving, so I think it's going to be on Tuesday or Wednesday, the podcast. Remember, guys, the week after Thanksgiving, I'm going to do a live event. Go to the link in my bio in my Instagram, everybody. If you guys want to come and be in my office, I'm going to become an act manager for a week. I'm going to show you guys exactly how my virtual office works, how we get like 100K plus per month. So if anyone who's watching is interested, go do that. And Garrett, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to end this right now. Scorch the fears. Let's freaking go.